The red recording light wasn't supposed to be on, but there it was. Vincent Herbert sat alone in the dim studio, the same room where Tamar once recorded her earliest hits. Shielding the Braxtons. That moment was the spark. The fallout was already loading: money talk, fame scars, talk shows, and messy headlines lining up fast. There was love. Real love, not the tabloid version. Vincent and Tamar weren't always court dates and chaos. Back then, they were just two people convinced music could fix anything, even the broken parts inside each other. Those early days weren't perfect, but they were fueled by hunger. Late-night studio sessions bled into sunrise. Phones stayed hot until morning. Promises were whispered like prayers no one else could hear. Vincent felt like he'd finally found purpose in Tamar. Tamar felt seen for the first time, not just as a Braxton, but as herself. And that last name was heavy. The Braxton family wasn't just famous. Evelyn, the matriarch, demanded respect and control at the same time. Tony, the icon, stayed trapped between superstardom and family pressure. Tawanda and Trina carried their pain quietly, often pushed to the side. And Tamar, she was the spark. Loud, gifted, emotional, brilliant, impulsive. A walking flame who needed everything around her to feel intense, or it didn't feel real at all. Vincent loved that fire. Admired it. Fueled it. Bankrolled it, without hesitation. When outsiders doubted Tamar, he went harder. Spending more. Pushing further. Betting bigger on her talent. In his mind, if he gave her everything, the world would finally give her the respect she deserved. But giving everything comes with a price. As Tamar's spotlight grew brighter, Vincent slid into a different lane. He wasn't the face, he was the engine. The man behind the curtain making the magic move. Booking tours. Paying dancers. Covering studio hours. Smoothing over family drama with checks and contracts. Quietly. Steadily. Expenses started stacking, ones he says were never meant to land on him. Production cards tied to business accounts began picking up family charges. Travel. Dinners. Glam squads. Private bookings. All waved off as necessary. At first, he shrugged it off. What's a few thousand when success is right there? But a few thousand turned into tens of thousands. Tens turned into six figures. And then, the label deal went left. Now, the album needed more cash. A show needed last-minute funding. Emergency after emergency kept popping up. Suddenly, Vincent wasn't just a husband anymore. He was the bank. He tried to bring it up behind closed doors, calm, private, respectful. But Tamar was under non-stop pressure. Career stress. Family demands. Online noise that never shut up. Every money conversation turned into an argument about loyalty, belief, and whether he still had her back at all. Every time, Vincent backed down. Not because he was weak, but because he loved her. Loving Tamar meant choosing peace while quietly sinking. And it wasn't all bad. That's what made it worse. There were good days that made the hard ones cut deeper. Holidays packed with music. Mornings in the kitchen, laughing loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Late studio nights where they danced like they were still new, still chasing each other, still believing. Those moments burned into his memory. Because when love is real, betrayal cuts sharper. Online chatter started heating up. Blogs spun narratives. Fans guessed, exaggerated, filled in blanks they never had answers for. The sisters stayed silent in public, but behind closed doors, opinions flew fast. Meanwhile, Vincent watched a new storyline form, one where he wasn't the supporter anymore. He was the villain. Controlling. Manipulative. The bad guy. That's why his voice shook on that recording. He wasn't angry. He was wounded. A man who poured everything into a family that, in his own words, kept taking until there was nothing left to take. When Vincent finally broke his silence, the story stopped being messy gossip and turned into open war. That audio was never supposed to hit the internet, not like this. But one tiny leak, just 22 seconds, flipped everything upside down. Blogs went into overdrive. Fans split into camps. The Braxton fan base melted down in real time. In that clip, Vincent didn't sound polished or performative. His voice was shaky. Raw. Locked in with purpose. I didn't lose the money, he said. It was taken from me. The internet exploded. Some rushed to defend Tamar with their whole chest. Others said Vincent had stayed quiet way too long for that tone not to mean something serious. Still, nobody had heard the full recording until tonight. Vincent leaned forward in his chair, eyes heavy, like a man replaying every wrong turn he'd ever made. He took a slow breath and kept talking into the mic, almost confessing to himself as much as to the world. People assumed he walked away because of arguments, reality TV stress, or public pressure. He made it clear that wasn't the breaking point. The real snap came the day he discovered the offshore transfer. He paused long enough for the words to sting. An offshore transfer doesn't happen by accident. He swallowed it all, hoping time would smooth things out. Then one morning, he opened his business account and froze. Transactions stacked far beyond anything he'd approved. Money moving. Withdrawals he never made. And one name tied to it all hit like a punch to the chest. Tamar. He didn't confront her right away. He paced for hours, replaying years of trust, loyalty, and sacrifice on a non-stop loop. When he finally asked about the money, it exploded. No calm talks. Just raised voices. Slammed doors. Words flying sharp and reckless. She said it was for projects. She said the label wasn't backing her. She said family needed help. She said he was supposed to believe in her. But Vincent didn't hear belief. He saw fear. Pressure. A woman burning faster than he could keep fueling. So he went quiet again, choosing love over war. But something inside him cracked that day. When the divorce came, the public saw arguments and betrayal rumors. What they didn't see were the years of invisible sacrifices. They didn't see Vincent breaking down alone in the studio he built for her dreams. They didn't see him quietly selling assets just to cover debts nobody even knew existed. And they definitely didn't see what he found later. Records. Withdrawals. Digital signatures. Financial logs that hinted things went further than he'd ever admitted until now. Vincent explained how he logged into an account tied to music royalties and froze when he saw nearly $1.2 million gone. Not shopping money. Not tour expenses. Funds tied to future projects. Long-term plans. Financial security meant for their child. Money designed to build, protect, sustain a future. And it had vanished. He retraced every step, accountants, lawyers, financial managers, until one name kept appearing in the digital authorizations. A name he trusted more than anyone else. Tamar Braxton. At first, he tried to rationalize it. Identity theft. Fraud. Someone using her credentials without her knowing. But the deeper he dug, the harder it became to ignore what the records showed. That's when his voice cracked. Not from anger, but disbelief. Vincent finally pressed the accountant, and the answer hit like a brick. The transfers weren't random. Not hacked. Not accidental. They were triggered using Tamar's private email access. And that's where everything changed. Credentials only she had. Vincent sat frozen, chest tight, words stuck in his throat. This wasn't petty relationship drama, or a bad argument gone left. This was betrayal on a level marriage vows were never built to survive. Still, he didn't explode. He gave her space to explain. He walked into the house calm, steady, hoping there was some kind of mix-up. "We need to talk about the missing funds," he said. Tamar didn't respond with guilt. She came with fire. She denied wrongdoing and said she moved the money to protect her future, because she feared Vincent would take everything if the marriage fell apart. In her mind, she was securing herself. To Vincent, it felt like she had already checked out long before he even knew there was a problem. The argument spiraled fast, and it wasn't just about money anymore. It cracked open something he'd buried for years. "I feel like I've been building everybody but myself," he admitted. That line cut deeper than any shouting match. Tamar fired back, voice shaking, accusing him of being controlling, of trying to own her career. She said she wasn't living under anyone's shadow. She deserved independence. She deserved power. In that moment, they weren't husband and wife. They were two empires crashing head-on. The weeks that followed went ice-cold. Silence moved into spaces where laughter used to live. Vincent slept at the studio. Tamar disappeared for days without explanation. Family didn't show up with comfort, they showed up with whispers. Who was wrong? Who was using who? And whose version of the truth would survive once cameras and opinions started rolling? Then came the moment that changed everything. During a later studio session, the one right before that recording, Vincent found something disturbing. A folder buried on a shared drive, misfiled under vocal stems. Inside were scanned contracts, expense reports, and handwritten notes. Not his handwriting. Tamar's. One page listed assets labeled accounts to move under VH Properties, shared signature. Another note was circled twice in red, discussed with Trina before final step. That's when it clicked. This wasn't emotion. This wasn't panic. This looked planned. He wasn't just losing money, he was losing control of everything he'd built. And at the bottom of that folder sat the page that flipped his world upside down. A draft agreement between Tamar and a third-party investor. The documents laid it out in black and white. Ownership of certain creative rights was being shifted into Tamar's name alone. Projects they built together. Albums they both shaped. Shows he helped finance. Deals he helped negotiate. They weren't side by side by accident. They were partners. And yet Vincent had no idea she was lining up a legal separation of those assets behind the scenes. That's when the betrayal hit deepest. Not just love, but family. Trust. And the person he once trusted with his entire career.